It's time for the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
Just about 1 week away until the 2021 NFL Draft. Here on the Kirby on Sports Podcast, we have you covered getting you ready for the 2021 NFL Draft, including a mock draft of round one of the draft here on the Kirby on Sports Podcast. But before we begin, we would like to thank our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, and Chief Graphics. Big thanks, as always, to Dave Johnson and Productions by Quet as well. All right, it's time for another edition of the Kirby on Sports Podcast. It comes your way right now.
I'm glad you connected. This is Dave Johnson, voice of the Washington Wizards. You have connected to the right place because you are listening to my man, Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Kirby on Sports Podcast. As always, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, and Chief Graphics. Big thanks, as always, to Dave Johnson and Productions by Quet for our music as well. It is the mock draft 1 week away from this date that we are recording. The NFL Draft will be in Cleveland. So we're looking forward to that. We're excited, and here to break down the mock draft, we're going to talk anything and everything NFL draft, getting you set for the NFL draft, along with on draft night, a week from tonight, we will be coming to you on Facebook Live, discussing the picks that are made by each team. No, we're not going live for all 7 rounds, but we are just going live for the first round, or as much of the first round as we can do. Joining me now, it is a person who is a friend of the show, who has not been on in quite some time, but he is back with us. The man, the myth, the legend, the CEO of Chief Graphics, Carlos Martinez. Carlos, how are you, sir?
Making my triumphant return to the show after, when was the last time I was on? Was after the Super Bowl?
After the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's been a while. So making my triumphant return and bringing the ratings back to this lovely show. You know, I moved the needle, my friend.
You move.
You bring Carlos on, the viewers and listeners come.
Yeah, that is true. So we're glad you're back on, Carlos. First and foremost, though, it's been a little bit over a year with this pandemic. I can't believe, but lo and behold, there is a light at the end of the tunnel for this pandemic to end soon. The NFL Draft will be in Cleveland, and I know there will be some sort of attendance. I'm not really sure the numbers due to COVID, but do we think I mean, just a random first question here. Do we think that most players are going to want to just stay home due to the pandemic, or will we see some players actually at the draft waiting to hear their name called?
Yeah, some players are going to be there from what I understand. I know like some players have already said they're not going. Trevor Lawrence said he's going to just spend it with his family. So he's not going to be in Cleveland for that. But I mean, I'm pretty sure some players will probably be there, but I know they're probably only going to have a very limited amount of players going this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that many. I really do feel like that most of the players are just going to stay home because, I mean, like mitigating their chances on spreading COVID if there was to be a potential outbreak, God forbid, knock on wood. But I mean,
but you got to think that the NFL has, precautions and protocols in place for if they do show up. If they've had that the whole season with testing for COVID and trying to, stop the spread of it, in only in certain cases it went rampant in some franchises. So I'm pretty sure for the draft they will have something set up to where it'll be safe to go for these players.
Yeah, so like I said, a week away from the NFL draft. We're looking forward to it. We're planning on coming to you live, Facebook Live at the Kirby on Sports podcast. And we will have all the picks broken down from you live. So without further ado, let's get into the mock draft. Carlos, you gave us the opportunity to do this mock draft. You made sort of this mock draft setup for us. So we're going to go based off of Carlos's mock draft. We're going to discuss his, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to sort of say, hey, I don't agree that person's going to get drafted here. You can't see it, but on the podcast Zoom, I have a mock draft simulator by Pro Football Focus, pff.com. So we'll be playing around with that a little bit and just toying around to see what potential moves could be made based off of Pro Football Focus. So, I mean, this is the greatest part about the draft, Carlos, because anything can happen. I mean, for the most part, essentially who's going 1, 2, and 3. That's almost a guarantee. But after that, you don't know who's going to make a trade. That's just so hard to predict. And you don't know what's going to come about in the draft, who might get traded, so on and so forth. So that's, in my opinion, why the NFL draft is so interesting to me.
Yeah, anything can and will happen in the draft. So, like, obviously, so we're just going based off of what, like what the order is right now. We're not really like predicting any trades and such. So
yeah, I think that's way too complicated to predict if based on how many trades there might be or so on and so forth. Because
yeah, I mean, there will be a surprise trade somewhere.
There will.
I mean, there's some ideas going out there of like who could trade, and I heard a pretty good one, which I'll bring up when we get to the pick. And I love this trade. I think if it happens, I will be very happy. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we're not going to really predict trades here. We're just going based off of the order as is of today of recording this podcast.
Correct. So without further ado, let's get into it, Carlos. You ready?
The Jacksonville Jaguars are now on the clock, my friend.
The Jacksonville Jaguars are now on the clock. Mock draft here on the Kirby on Sports podcast. I mean, this is going to be a quick and easy pick.
Is it? I don't know, man.
You don't know, really?
I don't know. This is going to, I mean, the options here, man. I mean, they can take anybody.
They're taking Trevor. I think they're taking Trevor.
I mean, you got to build up to the pick, Kirby. Come on, man. You got to be a showman here. Yes, obviously we know Jacksonville is going to take Trevor Lawrence. Who else would they take at number 1?
Well, the thing for me here, I'm not fully bought on Jacksonville. Because I mean, obviously this was a long time ago, but the last time a college coach of a caliber such as Urban Meyer was hired to coach an NFL team, I remember was Nick Saban. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I mean, just in my opinion, I've seen Nick Saban in the success he has had in the NFL, which wasn't really that much. I'm not sure, since Urban Meyer has taken some time away from coaching after Ohio State, I'm not really sold yet on the Jacksonville Jaguars and if they will be successful in Urban Meyer's first season. But hell, if he can go out there and if they do draft Trevor Lawrence and make a great team and turn Jacksonville around, then prove me wrong. But as of right now, I'm not really bought on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think the number one pick will be Trevor Lawrence. I think that is a good move, Carlos, because Trevor Lawrence, most recently with Clemson, they lost to Alabama in the national championship game. But I'm sure Trevor Lawrence is familiar with Urban Meyer. And I don't really want to make this comparison, but I feel like as a TV analyst, Urban Meyer studied Trevor Lawrence a little bit since, he was in the college football scene. So they might be able to have a nice bond together as coach, quarterback, and make something happen. But I'm going to need to see more than just Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville to lead me to believe that Jacksonville can produce a successful team.
Well, there's a big difference between Urban Meyer and Nick Saban. And obviously Nick Saban was like, that happened, I don't know, I want to say before 2010 it happened. Yeah. So, it's been a few years since, all that went down. But on top of that, Urban he's not as controlling as Nick Saban is, I want to say. It seems like with Nick Saban is he likes to control every single aspect and like know every single thing his players are doing compared to Urban Meyer, where Urban Meyer, obviously there's been a lot of controversy with him when it comes to how his players are off the field. He had a lot of controversies in like Florida and Ohio State, and all that. So he doesn't seem like and obviously now you're dealing with grown men who are now providing for families. So you can't necessarily control every aspect of their lives the way you can with college kids. So I think he's going to translate well into the NFL. It's just whether he can, his type, like his offense, like whatever, like any systems he puts in Jacksonville will actually work in the NFL. That's the question. But yeah, this is the right pick. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent. He's been hyped up ever since he was in high school. The last time we saw this much hype around a player was Andrew Luck, and albeit Andrew Luck obviously retired early because, injuries and such. But while he was playing, he was a solid quarterback, and, it took the Colts all the way up to, I believe, an AFC championship game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe that's true.
Divisional or championship game. I can't remember. I think it was a championship. But Trevor Lawrence is the clear-cut number one pick in this draft. What else is there to say? The guy's done it all. He can perform in clutch situations. He's got great, timing. He's got just, think about it. He beat Alabama when he was a freshman. He lit them up in the national championship game. And then, of course, his sophomore year, they went up against, a great LSU team who was just stacked with talent. And, he still performed admirable in that game. But then, obviously the game before that, he makes the comeback against Ohio State. This season, of course, Ohio State kind of dominated them. But, also, he had COVID and whatnot. But he was a Heisman finalist. So, the list goes on and on about why Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in this draft class.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look here at the stats from 2020, he had a 67.9 overall completion percentage, just over 3,000 yards passing with 24 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Trevor Lawrence, the stats prove that he should go number one. And I think it's just a matter of how well he translates into the league. And I feel like it could be a pretty good transition. But, with the Jaguars not doing so well over the years, how well is he going to perform? Because it's not just the quarterback. You have to have a team around your quarterback. So there are a lot of different factors that go into this, but to wrap this number one pick up, I think it's a 99.9% chance that Trevor Lawrence gets drafted number one overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I don't even think we can give them that 0.1% chance that they're not going to take Trevor. Like, it's a 100% chance. He already has the playbook. He already has the playbook apparently for the Jaguars. Really? Yeah, he already has it. Yeah, but apparently he already has it.
That makes absolutely no sense. I wonder
why. Well, because they know where he's going. They know he's going number one. They know they're taking Trevor Lawrence. Who are they going to take? Who else would you take? Nobody.
Wow. Just give him the playbook, I guess.
I mean, why not? Let's have him have a head start.
I guess so. So that is the number one pick in the NFL mock draft here on the Kirby on Sports podcast. Pick number 2, the New York Jets are on the clock. New York, not so hot of a season last year. They just recently traded Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers. I'm not sure how that relates to Teddy Bridgewater and his job as a quarterback for the future, but the Jets bring in Robert Saleh from the San Francisco 49ers to take over the head coaching duties. The Jets need a lot of work. I'm going to say that straight up front. The Jets need a ton of work. So without further ado, Carlos, I'll let you talk a little bit on the Jets and you can reveal pick number 2.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, we all know the Jets have been the dumpster fire of the league for a while. Hiring Adam Gase to be your coach, despite the fact that he struggled in Miami. It seems like he just does not understand how to really develop. Like, there's 2 careers for each player that plays for Adam Gase. There's when you played for Adam Gase and after you played for Adam Gase. I mean, we see it with Ryan Tannehill. Like, Ryan Tannehill ends up becoming a pretty solid quarterback, but yet under Adam Gase, he couldn't do anything. So obviously he got canned because he just could never get it going with Sam Darnold. Yeah, Sam Darnold, and just never got it going with New York. So obviously they kicked him to the curb, and they brought in Robert Saleh, who should have honestly gotten a job last offseason, but didn't.
Yeah, I was very surprised about that. Him and Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, and the fact that Eric Bieniemy still doesn't is
mind-boggling.
Absolutely insane. But, maybe this offseason coming up, who knows? But with the number 2 pick in the Kirby on Sports mock draft, the New York Jets are selecting Zach Wilson, quarterback out of BYU.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. Zach Wilson from the BYU Cougars. Last season, let's just start off. He had an overall 72.7 completion percentage, just over 3,500 yards, 32 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. That's very good. His overall based here on PFF.com is 95.4. So, I mean, the stats look good. I just think I feel like if Trevor Lawrence was not on the board this year, Zach Wilson would have gone number 1, but that's just not the case. But the New York Jets need to start over fresh. Robert Saleh is giving them that start as their new head coach, and they need a lot of work. And I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to say this multiple times throughout the duration of this podcast, is that you need a team to build around your quarterback, or else your quarterback will not succeed.
Yeah, but you got to think Robert Saleh has a plan for this team, and it's going to start with Zach Wilson. Now, me personally, I would not have taken Zach Wilson here. I just feel like, when you got a Justin Fields out there who has proven he on the biggest stages to perform well. I mean, obviously we saw it in the semifinal this year against Clemson, where he gets absolutely destroyed, and from that one hit, goes out, but like fights to get back in, gets back in and performs the way he does, lights Clemson up. And then, they lost the national championship to Alabama, but, I mean, Justin Fields, has done it consistently in his 2 years at Ohio State, I personally would have taken Justin Fields on this pick. But, Zach Wilson is getting that weird media hype and rising all the way to number 2. We see it a lot in the buildup to drafts where like a certain quarterback will get a lot of hype, leading up to the draft and then gets pushed up all the way to like number 2. We saw it with Mitchell Trubisky. We saw it with Blaine Gabbert, years ago, who coincidentally Jacksonville took. We see it, every now and again. Where the media falls in love with a quarterback. And of course, they're falling in love with him because he looks a lot like Patrick Mahomes when he throws the ball. No idea why. Obviously, he'll never be Patrick Mahomes, but he can make some pretty crazy throws. He is very exciting to watch. But do I think he's worthy of the number 2 pick? I don't, because I just feel like Justin Fields' resume is a lot better than Zach Wilson's.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that resume wise, but I still feel like he's going to help New York in a big way during this rebuilding time.
They can definitely do a lot more with Zach Wilson than what they could have done with Sam Darnold. I do agree with that, but I just feel like you can probably do the same things with Justin Fields that you could do with Zach Wilson. It's not as if Justin Fields isn't mobile. Now, albeit the only difference is Zach Wilson seems to be able to improvise better if things break down, and actually seems to play better when things break down.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah, that's a very good point there.
So, we'll see how it goes. But I guess good for the Jets. I don't know. Maybe this is, I could be completely wrong, and it turns out Zach Wilson becomes the best player in this draft and outshines even Trevor Lawrence.
Absolutely. So, pick number 3, in a trade from Houston, some time ago.
Actually, no. It was, so pick number 3 was originally Houston's pick, but was traded to Miami for Laramie Tunsil.
Oh, yes.
And then Miami traded it to San Francisco.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That whole, yeah, I remember now. I remember there. Now I apologize for that. So, yes. In all that commotion with trades, the San Francisco 49ers have the 3rd pick in the NFL draft. The 49ers struggled with injuries. Jimmy Garoppolo with his ankle, trying to find some way to win. So they just did not have a good year. Hands down. And with Kyle Shanahan, a young coach, I think he will try to find a way to turn this team around. And I feel like San Francisco is going to go really hard in this draft to try to find a lot of good players to put on the roster and to compete, so San Francisco can get back to winning football games, because this San Francisco team not too long ago, minus a couple players, were in the Super Bowl facing off against the Kansas City Chiefs. So that was 2 years ago, I believe. I don't remember exactly, but time flies when you're doing this for so long. But this San Francisco team is trying to get back to where they were in the Super Bowl and win another Super Bowl.
Yeah. It was a Super Bowl 2 years ago. It wasn't last Super Bowl. It was the Super Bowl before that. And they were winning up until the 4th quarter, and then they just got tired. I just feel like this is more, San Francisco. Yeah, like you said, they were completely demolished by injuries this season. Literally within like the span of 2 weeks, they lost a majority of their star players. On top of that, then there was the whole thing of them pretty much getting kicked out of their stadium because they weren't allowed to play, in Santa Clara, and they had to go play a couple games down in Arizona. Mm-hmm. And then of course, this is, they traded up to number 3. So this has all signs pointing to they're planning on drafting a quarterback. Because you don't trade up that high to take some wide receiver or something, but who knows, maybe they'll throw a curveball at us. They traded for this pick, and when they traded for this pick, they did call Jimmy G and tell him that he was still part of their plans. But with that all being said, with the third pick in the Kirby on Sports NFL mock draft, the San Francisco 49ers are selecting Mac Jones, quarterback out of Alabama.
See, this is where I'm going to have to really disagree, because I feel like Mac Jones is just not a top 5 caliber quarterback. I really feel like he's going to drop. I really feel like he's going to drop lower than this. And I mean, like I said, there are a lot of variables that go into the NFL draft, but I feel like Mac Jones, in my opinion, is not a top 5 quarterback. But if the 49ers take him, they're obviously going to have a plan in place with Jimmy G and Mac Jones. And who knows, maybe it will work out. But I mean, Mac Jones, looking from Alabama, the Alabama Crimson Tide, my gosh, his numbers are incredible from 2020. 76.6 completion percentage, almost 4,500 yards passing, 41 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. But
and of course, he was also a Heisman finalist.
Yes, he was.
And he also won the national championship.
He did. But I've been seeing a lot of stuff. I've been looking at stats on him. The stats look great, but I don't know. This one's tough. This one's really tough. I just don't think he could go in the top 5. But
the reason why he's getting a lot of hype coming into, and why he's projected to go number 3 to San Francisco, is because the thought process is, not the thought process, the word is that he's a Kyle Shanahan guy. Like, he's like the perfect type of quarterback to run the Kyle Shanahan offense. And that's really the reason why. Like, he's a game manager, which I don't understand why that's a negative term in football, because like all quarterbacks are game managers. Your job is to manage the game. And I mean, like, he's proved on, in the biggest stages, he of course, he's only had this 1 year to start, and obviously he was stuck behind, Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa for, a majority of his college career. But when he got the opportunity, he came out and he performed pretty well. So, I mean, again, personally, I think Justin Fields is still a better pick here too.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Fields, I would pick over Mac Jones.
I would as well. But again, if San Francisco must see something in Mac Jones that makes him think that he will succeed in, I think this is more of, he fits the system better than what Justin Fields would fit in the system, I guess. I don't know. Again, me personally, I think Justin Fields should be the number 2 pick. I think the Jets should take Justin Fields, and then maybe the 49ers take Zach Wilson. I don't know. But I mean, as far as we know, the top 3 picks are this. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones.
Yeah, all quarterbacks. You tend to see that a lot. With the first 3 picks, you try to get the best quarterback.
Well, it's especially a big deal this year because, because there is a lot of good talent out there in terms of quarterbacks this year. And next year, they're not expecting a lot of good, like great talent like this coming out of college. So it seems like teams are, chomping at the bit to want to get a quarterback this year.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I feel like that's a good point there. And I feel like this quarterback class is going to go very early. There are a lot of big names besides the top 3 we picked in our mock draft. We have Trey Lance. We have Kyle Trask.
And Justin Fields is still on the board.
Yeah, Justin Fields, Kellen Mond. I mean, Kellen Mond, I think he's sort of overlooked. I feel like he could go kind of early, but I mean, that's a long
Kellen Mond has I think has the best chance of being the Dak Prescott of this draft class. The guy who's very overlooked and then turns out to be great. Also, keep an eye on the Stanford quarterback. Move the thing up a little bit. Davis Mills. Yeah. Yep. Keep an eye on him because he might be able to sneak into the first round. I don't think he will, but he could possibly sneak in.
Absolutely. So moving on to pick number 4, the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock in the Kirby on Sports mock draft. Atlanta just recently fired head coach Dan Quinn. They bring in Arthur Smith from Tennessee. Yeah, I mean, who knows with Atlanta? They still have Matt Ryan, but who knows how long Matt Ryan will be part of Atlanta's plan. They just did not have a good couple of seasons, and this could be a time for Atlanta to rebuild. So, I mean, a lot to work on. I would say defensively with Atlanta and some tweaking of the offense. So, Carlos, I will give the floor to you once again for pick number 4.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they finally, they fired their head coach and Dan Quinn, and then brought in Arthur Smith from Tennessee. We've said it on the podcast before, ever since they lost the Super Bowl, it just feels like this team never really got their footing back. They needed a change from, the top, from the coaching down. It's hard for them to move Matt Ryan, to kind of move on from Matt Ryan, which I'm pretty sure is what they would want to necessarily do, because now you got a new head coach and all that stuff. Maybe he wants to bring his guy in, but it's hard to move on from Matt Ryan because of his contract, and so with that being said, I don't think they're going to take a quarterback with this pick. It would make sense to take a quarterback with this pick. You got, a Georgia native in Justin Fields. Obviously he originally was at the University of Georgia, and then, he was not going to get a start anytime soon. He was stuck behind their quarterback at the time. I can't remember his name. And so he obviously transferred to Ohio State and obviously did pretty well at Ohio State. So I wouldn't be surprised if Justin Fields is on the board. If Atlanta takes him to kind of like set up for their future, maybe just have him sit behind Matt Ryan. But that is not who I picked for this. So with that being said, with the 4th pick in the Kirby on Sports NFL draft, the Atlanta Falcons are selecting Kyle Pitts, tight end from Florida.
Kyle Pitts. I like you said, Carlos, I would not be surprised if Justin Fields does get picked for the Falcons. I'm leaning more towards Justin Fields getting picked over Kyle Pitts, but I understand why Atlanta would pick Kyle Pitts if they were to. I mean, he has last season almost 800 yards, 43 receptions, 65 targets for Florida. I mean, the stats are there. The numbers are there. He has looked really good over the past couple of seasons for Florida. In 2019, he had almost 700 yards. So almost doubling his number between 2019 and 2020. So I could go either way here. I mean, I feel like if Justin Fields was on the board, and who knows? But like I said before, I'm leaning more towards Justin Fields than Kyle Pitts. But I understand why they would choose Kyle Pitts as well.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Pitts is mostly because, he's so versatile. He's, this like strange hybrid tight end that he can play tight end and receiver. And then when you factor that in, when you got Julio Jones, you got Todd Gurley, you got Calvin Ridley, I think he's the one that's on the Falcons.
Yep.
Yeah, you got Calvin Ridley, and then you add Kyle Pitts. Like, you give Matt Ryan a plethora of weapons. Their offensive line is not too bad. I mean, it could use a little work, but when you put this, in front of Matt Ryan, it could maybe extend his career a little bit and possibly give him some more success.
Absolutely. So, I mean, because if they decide to keep Matt Ryan, he needs more weapons, because I've watched some of the Falcons, and Julio Jones just not going to cut it anymore. I mean, they need more weapons on the offense. if they want to improve in any capacity. So I do like it either way, and I feel like Kyle Pitts can add a weapon to Matt Ryan to throw to and get some potentially some more touchdowns on the board so Atlanta can win.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Pitts is just a matchup nightmare. It's coming out of the tight end spot, and that will, get eyes off of, Julio and off of Calvin Ridley. So that's why this pick makes sense if you're going to stick with Matt Ryan. But again, I would not be surprised if Justin Fields is still on the board at this point, if they decide to go with Justin Fields. It wouldn't surprise me, but I do believe that they're going to go with Kyle Pitts.
Pick number 5, the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock in the Kirby on Sports podcast mock draft. The Bengals, they had Joe Burrow. He tore his ACL against Washington. So they lost him, had to go with Brandon Allen, a bunch of backup quarterbacks. And I mean, once again, they were still trying to focus their success on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is coming back. Yeah, I mean, to my knowledge, he has fully recovered, but I mean, he will be coming back barring anything serious with that injury that was lingering. But I mean, looking at the Bengals, I feel like defense is something they need to work on a lot. And I think we both agree on the pick we're about to say. But, I mean, the Bengals, they just need something to change. They've been a laughing stock in the league for quite some time. They haven't really done much the past couple of years. And they're another rebuilding team that is trying to take a deep dive into this draft to get better and better. So, Carlos, your pick number 5 for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, so like you said, obviously, they have been, I mean, I don't want to say they've been the laughing stock, but they haven't necessarily been the best. Obviously, they would make the playoffs and losing the wild card with Andy Dalton and all them. And then obviously coming into this era with Joe Burrow, they feel like they have something special here because Joe Burrow is a special quarterback. He's playing very well. But obviously the big problem which was a big problem with Andrew Luck early in his career, was keeping him upright, was, protecting him. So, and obviously, Burrow got the injury this year because he was just getting hit constantly. So a big factor in this draft, I believe, because there's a lot of people talking about they might pick a wide receiver here. I think that would be the dumb move, because I feel like they have adequate enough weapons to, at least for now, and maybe, in the coming years, they can start looking for more. But I think their biggest concern right now is protecting Joe Burrow and getting a good offensive line in front of him. So with that being said, with the 5th overall pick in the Kirby on Sports NFL draft, mock draft, mind you, the Cincinnati Bengals will be taking, oh God, I'm going to butcher his name, Penei Sewell, whatever, the tackle from
Penei Sewell.
Sewell, there you go. Penei Sewell.
Well, his career for Oregon, no stats for 2020.
I believe he opted out. Yeah, he opted out
due to COVID. So I mean,
due to COVID.
2019 stats, 435 run block, 491 pass block, and only 2 hits, 5 hurries. Obviously, there's been a pandemic, so obviously this draft class is, in my opinion, gonna shift just a little due to COVID, because it's playing a part. It's playing a factor, in my opinion, with this pandemic on who's getting drafted and who's staying longer to prepare for the NFL draft in college. That's just my 2 cents on it. But Yeah, I could potentially see Cincinnati taking a wide receiver, a tight end with this pick, but I really think they need to focus on defense more.
Defense or what? Why
What?
defense?
I mean, I feel like their defense hasn't been the best.
So you think that Cincinnati's main concern should be about defense instead of protecting your huge investment with Joe Burrow?
I go for that too. I would. I feel like defense and the O-line for Cincinnati is what they need to focus the most
I think
on.
the O-line is the most immediate concern because,
Yeah.
of course, you lost him last season. But,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I guess I do agree with
absolutely.
you that their defense needs a little work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I
but
like
I
the
agree with
pick.
you that they could easily take a wide receiver. And, I mean, the thought is they could also take Jamar Chase, who obviously played with Joe Burrow at LSU, and they lit it up. So that would be an interesting, but I think the smart pick here would be to take this guy. I can't say his name.
Penei Sewell.
Yeah, that guy. So
Pick.
that's all I got.
All right. So pick number 6, the Miami Dolphins from Philadelphia. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carlos, but part of that. No, I don't think it was. It might have been part of that.
Okay,
trade.
hold on,
Yes.
hold on. I'll explain it. Okay, so obviously there was a San Francisco part of the trade where, so San Francisco, I believe, was at number 12, and they traded with Miami because Miami originally had number 3, and Miami traded down to 12, and then after they made that trade, Miami then traded with Philadelphia, who was at number 6. And traded with them to basically swap. So now Philadelphia is at number 12 and Miami's at number 6.
Yep. So that's how it worked out. So Miami gets pick number 6. Obviously, Miami is in a position where they could trade up because, I mean, the Laramie Tunsil trade is
why would they
ridiculous.
trade up? Why would they trade up anymore after this? You were already at number 3.
I mean, it's incredible how many picks they got from the Laramie Tunsil situation.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So, I mean, the Dolphins, all they have to do is pick players, and they're on the way to becoming a pretty good franchise. They're not there yet, but this draft is really going to help the Dolphins improve, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins are definitely, they're definitely building something down there that looks like it's going to be, it's going to challenge Buffalo, and New England. It looks like the AFC North, not Northeast, is going to be, it looks like it could become a strong division, but Miami's got to be smart. They got to be smart and not take useless players as they've done in the past. But I believe Brian Flores is the right coach here. I feel like he's straight, gotten the ship on course, and he's going to keep them there. Obviously, with them trading out of number 3, it seems like they are putting their faith into Tua Tagovailoa. Now, obviously, he didn't necessarily have the best rookie season, but I attribute that to, he just came off of the major hip injury, and, it's his first year. It's a strange year with COVID and such. He couldn't necessarily prepare the way a quarterback normally would. So, I mean, for them to trade out of number 3, it shows that they're pretty much putting their faith in Tua, which I think they should. I feel like they need to give him a shot. But in order to give him a shot, they need to give him some weapons. So, with that being said, with the 6th pick in the Kirby on Sports mock draft, the Miami Dolphins are selecting Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU.
I mean, Jamar Chase, I feel like anybody that the Dolphins can pick is potential for greater success. I feel like Brian Flores is the right coach to help the players they will eventually draft this next week get to a position where they need to help Tua Tagovailoa, because Tua needs weapons. I mean, he was decent, like you said, on and off last year, but he needs weapons. And Jamar Chase can offer his services at wide receiver and could help Tua out tremendously in a wide receiver position for the Miami Dolphins. But I like the pick.
Yeah, Jamar Chase not by far, but like he's definitely the best receiver in this draft class. He obviously opted out last season because of COVID. But when he played in the 2019-2020 season, him and Joe Burrow were lighting it up. And, he had a fantastic game. The championship game, he was unstoppable. And, I just, this is just a great pick, another weapon for Tua Tagovailoa to try and succeed.
Pick number 7. The Detroit Lions are on the clock. Detroit, they get rid of Matt Patricia. It's not looking good. The Lions need to do something here because, it's just not happening. They traded Matt Stafford to LA, the Rams, for Jared Goff. So Jared Goff is with the Lions, and who knows? Maybe that will work. Maybe it doesn't. But Matt Stafford staying in Detroit, it wasn't going to help him build his career more than it already was. So, I'm not sure if that's going to work out, but the Lions need to do something. They're desperate, I think, and something needs to happen because the Detroit Lions are just not doing well. And they've had terrible success over the past couple of seasons as well.
Yeah, obviously, the Matt Patricia experiment did not work, And
he's back with New England. I can't believe that either.
Yeah, but, he was actually – I just feel like this seems to be the common trend here is, guys who are, coaches out of, out of Bill Belichick's system typically don't work out on their own, i.e., Brian Flores so far seems to be the only one. Matt Patricia just doesn't seem like he's the type who should be running a whole entire building. He needs to, mostly just be in charge of what he's good at. With that being said, they hired Dan Campbell in out of New Orleans, who was the assistant coach.
Dan Campbell.
Motor City Dan Campbell. And obviously his first press conference was very interesting, saying, they're going to bite off, kneecaps and such like that. But his thing was they want to take the identity of the city. And obviously Detroit's a tough, resilient city. So for me, this pick was I don't know what that looks like. Like, what does that look like? Like, who in this draft looks like that? Now, typically, like a tough, resilient guy would be like a middle linebacker or something like that, And there's nobody really like that. There's no Patrick Queen really in this draft. So I just kind of just winged it here, and I just picked the best player I thought that would make sense here. So with that being said, with the 7th pick in the Kirby on Sports NFL mock draft, the Detroit Lions will be selecting Jalen Waddle, wide receiver, Alabama.
Jalen Waddle from the Crimson Tide, University of Alabama. He had almost 600 yards, 28 receptions, 32 targets, 42 from the wide and 96 from the slot. Won the national championship game last year. So, Alabama, king for recruiting players to go to the NFL. So anybody out of Alabama I like, and who knows how he will pan out for the Lions, but the Lions needed to do something.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you trade for Jared Goff, and obviously moving on from Matthew Stafford was more of a courtesy to Matthew Stafford to give him a chance to win something because he's given everything to Detroit.
Oh yeah, amen.
He's played with a broken back and such. But I mean, I think if you want to talk about grit and toughness and such, Jalen Waddle has showed that. I mean, he played in the national championship game with that ankle injury and literally was like had a hobble off the field, and even so looked good looked good even with a hobbled ankle. This is interesting because obviously he got hurt this year, but Jalen Waddle is a very, very fast guy. He's not necessarily the biggest, and he gets a lot of comparisons to Tyreek Hill, although there's only one Tyreek Hill. I don't think he'll ever be a Tyreek Hill, but he'll definitely cause problems. And in Detroit, obviously they lost Galladay. He would sign with New York, and obviously they've been looking for a wide receiver to be the next Calvin Johnson, who we know the relationship between Detroit and Calvin Johnson is not the best now, but I think drafting Jalen Waddle will be like a good first step into the future.
So let me talk about Detroit for just a moment longer. I know you're a huge Pat McAfee fan. Did you listen to that interview with Pat McAfee and Dan Campbell?
Yeah, 100%.
It was the funniest interview I've ever heard. Dan Campbell's great because he has an amazing sense of humor.
Yeah, he's got a very dry sense of humor. So it's very I want to say
we're going to take a chunk out of your knee.
And we're going to bite kneecaps off. I'm like, oh, all right, well, I don't know how that would hype me up as a player, but whatever works, man.
Pick number 8. The Carolina Panthers are on the clock. Like I said with the Panthers, I mean, they just got Sam Darnold from the Jets. Teddy Bridgewater up in the air on if he is going to try to find a new team or not. Matt Rule's second year, they're going to try to make something happen. It says on Pro Football Focus I'm on right now that the needs are a quarterback and a wide receiver, tight end, and cornerback. Excuse me. I'm not necessarily sure if a quarterback is high on their list, but if at any point in this draft Carolina picks a quarterback, I think Teddy Bridgewater wants out. And other than that, I mean, I don't really have much else on the Carolina Panthers.
Well, I mean, they've told Ted, they obviously traded for Sam Darnold. So, I mean, they obviously, I believe Sam Darnold outside of New York and, not under, the eye of Adam Gase will be, I believe maybe he could have a second career. Maybe it'll be the same situation as what happened with Ryan Tannehill. But Carolina's already told Teddy Bridgewater he's allowed to seek trades, to go seek out his own trade if he can find something, which he, apparently he is. I mean, where he'll end up, who knows? Yeah, I feel like they're definitely going to go with Sam Darnold here. So I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. This is a potential spot for a trade. Carolina could trade out of number 8 and, fall back. But where they'll trade to, maybe they'll trade with New England. New England moves up, gets goes with their grand plan of trying to get Justin Fields. Maybe they draft Justin Fields here. Who knows what could happen here at the 8th pick. But we are drafting as the order is now. So we're going with Carolina's pick. So with the 8th pick in the Kirby on Sports mock NFL draft, I keep changing the way I say it. The Carolina Panthers will select Rashaan Slater. What is he? Offensive tackle out of Northwestern.
Rashaan Slater. Like I said, excuse me, like you said, Carlos, this could be a number 8 spot where the Panthers trade down because I'm not really sure, but I feel like this could be a potential where a team makes Carolina a deal they can't refuse to stockpile more picks.
A Godfather deal.
Yeah, so, something like that. I mean, but Rashaan Slater opted out of the 2020 season. We're seeing a lot of opt-outs who are coming into the draft. Carlos, do you think that's going to have an effect on gameplay or anything? I know it's still early, but do you think it will have an effect on their time in the league if they get any starting time, anything like that?
Are you asking me if they are they gonna be rusty? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, rusty. Yeah, I just couldn't find the word I was looking for, but I mean, taking a year off, I mean, does that have an effect on how rusty they might be on the field coming into the next season?
I mean, it could have its pros and cons. Obviously, it gives them a chance to heal up from any nagging injuries that they possibly have built up over the years of playing football. But also, you got to think that they've been working this whole time. They knew they were going to commit to the draft, so they've probably been training this whole time. Working out, working on fundamentals, studying, stuff that they could work better on. I don't know. I mean, I think these guys know what they're doing. I think they'll be fine.
All right. So Rashaan Slater from Northwestern. But once again, I would not be surprised if Carolina trades down in this draft. And this leads me to my next point. I would not be surprised if the New England Patriots made a move to trade up to number 8. I really feel like there would be a good shot if any team, the New England Patriots, because you know how the New England Patriots operated in free agency. They acted like they had no cap. And in the draft,
they practically didn't. I mean, they had the most money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the Patriots could explode in this draft and make multiple deals because that's how the New England Patriots work. So I wouldn't be surprised if New England trades up to pick number 8 along with keeping pick number 15. That's just my thoughts.
There's no way if they're going to draft up to 8 or anywhere up, they're giving up 15. There's no way they can keep 15. There's no trade scenario possible to trade into the top 10 where they keep pick number 15.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
No way.
There's
just no way.
But it's still, I wouldn't be surprised if New England traded up. I've been studying this most of the week, and I feel like New England can surprise a lot of people trading up and picking somebody that we might not expect.
Oh, just wait till you hear the trade that I have for you when we get to it.
All right. Pick number 9, the Denver Broncos are on the clock. Their quarterback, Drew Lock, for the Denver Broncos. I'm not sure how much longer he will be around. I mean, the Denver Broncos, another rebuilding organization. Not a lot to say on this, but I think the Broncos will pick a pretty big name defensive guy that has made a big name for himself.
Yeah, I mean, really, this pick just depends on how they feel about Drew Lock. Obviously, John Elway was pretty high on Drew Lock and believed him to be a lot like Patrick Mahomes. Which I was like, that makes no sense. And obviously this season was a little interesting for him because he got the shoulder injury earlier in the season, so we don't really know how much that was really bothering him later on in the year. And then obviously there was the whole thing with, the whole quarterback room being taken out, and then they had the practice squad wide receiver play quarterback for one game. So I mean, Denver can go multiple ways here. If Justin Fields is still on, they could take Justin Fields. They could take Trey Lance and, develop him. Or they could go with somebody else. I mean, they have a plethora of options where they are should the draft go this way. But there's also a thought that maybe Denver tries to move up also to try and get a quarterback if that's what they want to do and get a quarterback. Obviously, John Elway's not the GM anymore. He promoted himself because he realized he sucks at this job. So with that being said, with the 9th pick in the Kirby on Sports NFL mock draft, the Denver Broncos will select Micah Parsons, linebacker out of Penn State.
Micah Parsons, a dog. He is one of the best. I mean, Penn State's defense, there's a history of Penn State and how well their defense is. Micah Parsons' name was on that Penn State defense list because every time I've seen Penn State play, he was there making a name for himself. And I mean, he opted out in 2020, but 2019, I feel like he had a heck of a season. I like the pick. I really do. I feel like he will do well in Denver if Denver picks him. But yet again, there could be a chance that Denver picks a quarterback. And I would not be surprised if Trey Lance falls to pick number 9 for the Denver Broncos. That's a stretch, I know, but still, I feel like there's a good chance that a quarterback like Trey Lance could go to the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, that's not too much of a stretch. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Lance gets picked here, or Justin Fields if Justin Fields is still on the board, or even Mac Jones if Mac Jones is still on the board. It wouldn't surprise me if Denver selects a quarterback here, but I just believe that the way it seems like it's going, it feels like they're going to go Micah Parsons. I think they're going to give Drew Lock one more opportunity to try and prove if he's the quarter. I mean, he's got great weapons around him. Obviously, last year was a weird year with COVID, and of course he got injured, and then there was the whole situation where he was not allowed to play because of COVID protocols. So yeah, I believe they're going to go Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is this weird type of linebacker where he's like he's a weird in-betweener is what a lot of people are calling him, where like he can play a linebacker, but like he could also play like maybe a safety or something along those lines, where he can just kind of do it all, and that kind of scares some people. But I believe Micah Parsons is just a beast. He's an animal. So I believe if Denver picks him, that's just gonna like make their defense something to contend, like a force to be reckoned with.
Any team that Micah Parsons gets drafted to, I feel like he's gonna tear it up with any team. I feel like that's how good Micah Parsons is as a linebacker.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick 1 through 9 wrapped up here on the Kirby on Sports Podcast mock draft. That's Carlos. I'm Josh. We're taking a quick break. When we return, we will bring you picks 10 through 20. Stay tuned. I'd like to take a moment to talk about my friends over at Regroup Building Services, specializing in custom homes, remodels, additions, and so much more. If you're looking for a new place to call home or just need repairs on your current one, look no further, because Regroup Building Services has you covered. Just a couple months ago, Regroup Building Services came in and redid our entire kitchen, and boy, does it look great. I cannot recommend them enough. So if you're looking for anything to be done, make sure you check them out at www.regroupbuildingservices.com. Once again, that's www.regroupbuildingservices.com, where they do the honeydews that your honey don't. Make sure you tell them Josh sent you. for sports fans living in condominium and homeowners associations, as well as business professionals. When you need a reserve study, PM Plus Reserves has been in business since 1990. Their studies are accurate and easy to understand. Check them out when your association needs a study. www.pmplusreserves.com. You can also contact them at 703-803-8436. Once again, www.pmplusreserves.com. Welcome back to the Kirby on Sports Podcast mock draft. I am Josh Kirby, once again joined by Carlos Martinez. We are on to pick number 10, going to the Dallas Cowboys. Carlos, we're glad you're with us. Does this mean with the 10th pick being the Dallas Cowboys, you're officially a fan again since you rescinded your fanship last year to the Chiefs?
Yeah. My fanhood was rescinded last season. I picked the Chiefs to be my team. Obviously, they lost the Super Bowl. And my fanhood has been reinstated this season. Hopefully I won't have to rescind my fanhood again. But, the Dallas Cowboys have been mediocre at best for the past decade. So, with that being said,
you'll resend again if Washington sweeps you like they did last year.
Well, I rescinded way before that. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? Dak Prescott got hurt.
I just love making fun of Cowboys fans. It's just what I do.
Yeah, sure. So, ultimately, we have 5. You have, how many? 3? 2?
3.
When was the last time you guys won a Super Bowl?
Not for a while.
Yeah, you weren't even alive. I was 6 months old.
Oh, yeah, like you remember.
I don't, actually. But anyways, on to the pick. So with the 10th overall pick in the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast NFL mock draft, the Dallas Cowboys will select Patrick Surtain, the second cornerback out of Alabama.
Patrick Surtain II from the Alabama Crimson Tide. 273 total yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception.
He's a cornerback, so I don't necessarily know how much those yards and touchdowns and all that.
Yeah. From the defensive position, he marked 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 273 yards out of that. And Pro Football Focus rates him in the 2020 season an 89.9. So Patrick Surtain, I mean, Dallas needs somebody. Their defense just did not look good last season at all.
Yeah, and obviously.
I'm sure you can say the same, Carlos, but I mean, anything to help them on defense is going to benefit the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, obviously we hired Dan Quinn as our new defensive coordinator.
Which I think is smart.
Yeah, it's a good move. I mean, I think he worked. I mean, throughout Dan Quinn's time in Atlanta, the defense was always pretty solid, I felt like, with Atlanta. So I feel like this is the perfect guy to try and right the ship that is Dallas's defense, because last season we were atrocious. We lost Awuzie in free agency. Obviously, we lost Byron Jones the year before. We drafted is it Trayvon Diggs? I don't know if he's Diggs' little brother.
Oh, yeah. Stephon Diggs' little brother.
Yeah, it's Trayvon Diggs. Stephon Diggs' little brother. We drafted him. Obviously, he was at Alabama last year, so we're going to take another corner at Alabama. But I do have a possible trade that I heard in the grapevine that made a lot of sense to me. Now, whether it's going to happen, I don't know. But this one made a lot of sense, and I love this trade. So bear with me here, Kirby. What if the Dallas Cowboys trade the 10th pick with the New England Patriots for the 15th pick and for what's his name? Stephon Gilmore.
Ooh.
Because they've been trying to trade Gilmore for the past like 2 seasons.
I like that.
And then imagine that you get Gilmore, and then we can also still take Pat, because from 10 to 15, nobody really needs a cornerback the way Dallas does. So we could still get Patrick Surtain. So you would get Patrick Surtain, you would get and then we would get Stephon Gilmore to anchor, the defense. I mean, I like the trade.
I could most certainly see something like that happen. I mean, you hit me with sort of a bombshell there, Carlos, because
I don't want to take credit for that trade idea. Also, I heard that on the Ringer NFL show. But when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, that trade makes absolute sense, like total sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have much more to add. That the fact that, yeah, New England was trying to trade him and for New England to get another pick out of that.
Well, they would move up from 15 to 10, so they would trade the 15th pick and Stephon Gilmore for the 10th pick.
Oh, yeah. So they would move up. Yeah, I get that now. So
move up, and, maybe they move up if Justin Fields is there. Maybe that's why they move up.
Wow. Yeah. That's a good point. That really is, and I could potentially see that happening.
I could too. I would really enjoy that trade if it happened. But, of course, in this scenario, they just take Patrick Surtain. And I'm happy with that pick because Patrick Surtain is a solid cornerback.
Absolutely. So, from the Dallas Cowboys, it is the New York Giants with the 11th pick. They are on the clock.
Well, you look at the draft order. We got 3 NFC East teams in a row: Dallas, New York, and Philadelphia.
That's hilarious. That's absolutely hilarious.
Jeez. Within the top, well, from 10 to 20, it's all 4 NFC East teams. Good Lord. All right. Anyways, so with the 11th pick, the New York Giants. I mean, I don't really have much on the New York Giants, to be completely honest.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants are just the Giants.
The Giants are the Giants. They need a tackle, a guard, and an edge rusher. So with the 11th pick, the New York Giants select Azeez Ojulari, the edge rusher from Georgia. That's who I went with.
Ooh, Azeez. Yeah, I like that. I think the Giants can use more help on defense for sure. I don't really know much about this player, but I know I don't really know much on him, but I mean, anything for the Giants can help. They were, you know how bad the NFC East was. Somebody has to improve, and the Giants want to be one of that team.
What is it, the NFC least?
The NFC least, yes, correct.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, not too much. I mean, he's a good rusher, obviously. Hold on, I'm trying to pull up his stats real quick. He did play the 2020 season. He didn't opt out. He had 22 solo tackles, 8.5 sacks. He had four forced fumbles. Jesus, try to say that really fast. Yeah, I mean, he's a solid. He's a pretty solid rusher. I'm watching some of his highlights right now, and he's pretty quick off the edge.
Yeah, that's what the Giants need, because I don't feel like they had a lot of that last season.
No, I mean, they don't have a lot of, anything. I mean, come on, they were about to make the playoffs with a 6-10 record.
Yep.
And got upset about, Philadelphia, throwing the game. Like, dude, if you want to make the playoffs, be better. But yeah, I got them taking Ojulari. Jeez, it's so hard to say some of these players' names.
Yeah, it's crazy the pronunciations on some of these players' names. I mean, to say it correctly, you have to be under a lot of pressure if you're on the national media spotlight, if you know what I mean.
Just imagine trying to pronounce that during the draft. Well, they always have people who pronounce it for them. Like they're like, all right, this is how you say it, and then they send you out.
Oh yeah,
So.
yeah. I believe they have people telling you over and over and over. But I mean, besides the point. So the New York Giants with Azeez Ojulari, an edge rusher from Georgia. The 12th pick, another NFC East team, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are on the clock in the Kirby on Sports podcast mock draft. Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, once again, part of the NFC East. They threw that last game against Washington, and it was, if they would have won, the Giants were in. So, I mean, this division all around needs to improve all around.
And of course with Philly, obviously they won the Super Bowl a few years ago, and now they pretty much cleaned house. Everybody that was really part of that Super Bowl winning team is pretty much gone. Now obviously they traded Carson Wentz to Indianapolis, and their head coach got fired, or he pretty much quit. And obviously Philly moving from 6 to 12, which is interesting. I mean, I know they got some more picks out of Miami. They got like a third rounder, I believe, also. But I mean, there's really only one choice for Philadelphia at this point, because if they do not pick this guy, I mean, they pretty much have to get, either Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, or Devontae Smith, because they need wide receiver help. They're going with Jalen Hurts at quarterback this year. So they need to get him some weapons. And if they draft somebody else, I mean, I'm pretty sure Philadelphia is going to ride at this point. So with that being said, there's only one guy left out of those three guys. So with the 12th pick, Philadelphia will go with Devontae Smith, the wide receiver, Alabama, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner.
Devontae Smith, almost 2,000 rushing yards in 2020, 117 receptions, 145 targets, 23 touchdowns. I mean, Devontae Smith, I'm actually surprised he didn't go earlier in the draft, to be honest with you. I mean, that's how good I think he looked, and I feel like he will be a powerhouse wide receiver to any team that drafts Devontae Smith.
Well, the downside on Devontae Smith, I mean, for me, I think Devontae Smith is good, but the thing about Devontae is, he's not the tallest. He's only 6'1". He's very skinny. He's 175. Hell, I weigh more than him right now. And also, he was this, he's a senior. Like, why? A lot of people are wondering, why did it take you 4 years to really blow up the way you did? Now, mind you, the first introduction we got to Devontae Smith, he was the one who caught the touchdown from Tua Tagovailoa from in the national championship game against Georgia that year. That was the first time we really got to see Devontae Smith. So he's been there all 4 years. But then when you think about it, look at the room he was in. You had, Waddle, you had Jerry Jeudy, you had the one who's in you had Calvin Ridley. Was it Calvin Ridley? No, it was the other Ridley brother.
Yes.
You had, and then you had who's the one who's in Las Vegas?
Carr.
No, not the quarterback, the wide receiver.
Ruggs, Henry Ruggs.
Yeah, Henry Ruggs. You had, I mean, think about that room was stacked, and he won the Heisman this year. He was incredible. I mean, think about it. He only played the first half of the national championship game.
Yeah, he was injured. The one that broke his pinky or something.
I can't remember what he did, but he got injured, And and the game ends, and he did so much work in that first half that he was still the leading, receiver and such after the whole game, and he only played one half basically,
which was incredible. He played incredible in that national championship game.
Whole season. The whole season he played great. Like he was rightfully the Heisman Trophy winner. And obviously he made Mac Jones look good enough that it seems like Mac Jones is going to go number 3. So yeah, I think him going to Philadelphia, I feel like that those are the knocks on him, is that he's just, he's a smaller, skinnier guy. He doesn't weigh a lot, but I mean, so I guess their fear is, when he gets pressed, like how is he going to do with that? But I mean, off the press, he did very well this past season. Like he got off quickly. A lot of people attribute like compare his footwork and such to that of oh my God, what is his name? I'm horrible with names today. Wide receiver at Green Bay, Devonta Adams.
Yeah,
Devonta Adams. Yeah,
Devonta.
Devonta Smith and Devonta Adams are a lot alike, apparently, in terms of footwork.
Yeah, I mean, I like the move you picked there. Yeah, I mean, he played incredible, and Jalen Hurts is still young, so that's going to help him out a lot.
Not only that, Jalen Hurts played with Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
For 1 year. But
I was just about to touch on that, because there could be chemistry there as well, because they're both from Alabama, and they might be able to work well together.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Number 13, the Los Angeles Chargers. They are on the clock with the 13th pick in the Kirby on Sports Podcast mock draft.
Yeah, so with the 13th pick, the LA Chargers will pick Christian Darrisaw,
from Virginia Tech.
Tackle from Virginia Tech. Obviously, they found their franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert. He played fantastic, Rookie of the Year. And, I just feel like they just need to get a tackle to, help protect him.
Well, that is true. I agree with that. But I feel like I'm going to put a sort of spin on this.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see Washington pick Darrisaw if he falls down to 19, where Washington is picking. That is my thought. I feel like Christian Darrisaw has a chance to fall. I really do. I've watched his tape.
I don't think he's going to fall to Washington. If he does,
it would be nice.
He's already falling as it is. I just feel like LA is going to pick him up.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like Washington would be the second team he goes to if the Chargers do not grab him first.
Maybe.
Yeah. But I like Christian. Played for Virginia Tech. Pretty great athlete. Had 6 hurries last season. In 2020, ranked 95.6 per PFF.com. So I like it. Virginia Tech, I mean, they were decent in the football scene. Not the best, not the worst, but still, Virginia Tech tends to produce pretty great talent.
Yeah.
Number 14, the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock.
Yeah, so so with the 14th pick, I have Minnesota taking Kwity Paye, the edge rusher from Michigan.
The edge rusher, Kwity Paye from Michigan. He has 2 sacks, 4 hits, 16 hurries.
He only played 4 games, and I believe he opted out.
Yes. Yeah, that I remember seeing that. Thank you for jogging my memory there. So, Minnesota Vikings, I mean, their defense is very, very young. Their team is sort of in a rebuilding mode. They haven't been playing the best the past couple of years.
No, just last season, because the year before that, remember, they got to the divisional round.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
last year was just a bad year, but I mean, it was just a strange year for everybody. But
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Zimmer said this is the worst defense I've ever coached, so
Yeah,
they
I
need some
mean, their
help.
defense is young. That was one of the main reasons why they lost a lot of guys after that divisional game, but
Mhm.
they will bounce back. I know the Vikings, and I know the Vikings are more talented than what they were last year. On paper, they looked more talented than what they had in store, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and then obviously they have
Playing.
Justin Jefferson also,
Yeah,
and
Justin Jefferson.
I mean they have Kirk Cousins, who I'm not the biggest fan of. I know you were. Nah, don't lie. You were a fan of him. You wanted him to stay in Washington. It's fine.
I mean,
I think he gets a lot of his stats in garbage time when it doesn't matter.
I think he wants too much money.
Okay, that's his problem.
I don't know, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the Vikings can do if they pick up Kwity Paye, but they need to focus on defense primarily.
Yeah.
Number 15, the New England Patriots are on the clock. The New England Patriots missing the playoffs. That's rare. Missing the playoffs last season. I mean, New England's going to do something. They will get back into the playoffs, and they're going to do something to make this right, because it's very rare. It's very strange for New England not to be in the playoffs. Obviously, you have Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay, winning them a Super Bowl, and they didn't really have a lot to choose from because most of their players were opting out. I assume most of their players are coming back, plus the people they draft. The New England Patriots are going to be that much better. And not to mention, I'm just going to say this briefly, Julian Edelman's contract was terminated, and he announced retirement. That is a load of crap. He will be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the next year. I guarantee you that.
No, I don't see that happening, but okay. Obviously, like you said, this is a new era for New England. Obviously, we're in the post Tom Brady era. The last year didn't go so well. And I think that was definitely something that lit a fire under Bill Belichick, and that's why he actually spent money this offseason, that he actually, also because they actually had money to spend. And then also, like you said, they're getting a bunch of players back who, we are assuming are going to actually play this season, because obviously a lot of them opted out due to COVID. But my thing with New England is, obviously we've been talking about it, is they need a quarterback for the future. And if this comes to pass the way it's going, I mean, you got to start thinking that New England's probably the one planting all these doubt stories for Justin Fields and playing the NFL like a fiddle, basically. So with the 15th pick in the Kirby on Sports mock draft, the New England Patriots select Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State. The Empire lives on.
Justin Fields, last season for the Ohio State University, almost 2,100 yards, just under 2,100. He's overall is 93.6 per PFF.com. 158 completions, 226 attempts, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I don't know per se if Fields will fall to 15. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes higher, but if he does fall to 15, I feel like that is a great choice for the New England Patriots.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is just the way the mock draft. I mean, obviously, New England could trade up to try to get him, or maybe San Francisco ends up picking him. Maybe even New York ends up picking him, and they were just playing everybody, saying that they were going to take Zach Wilson. Or, maybe some other team leading up to that, Denver maybe picks Justin Fields. I mean, the chances of Justin Fields falling this far are, I feel like they're slim. I mean, like I said, to me, he's the number 2 quarterback in this draft. I feel like. I mean, you had his stats up earlier. I mean, don't forget, they had this was such a strange year. The Big Ten originally wasn't going to play, and then they were going to play, but then they had like 8 straight weeks, of them having to play. And, you know, it was just a strange year, and he still did pretty well. 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He played fantastic in that semifinal. The national championship, I mean, they just came up against Alabama. Alabama was going to beat anybody. But then also had his stats up the year before. He had 40 plus touchdowns, and was, thought that they had a shot at, beating Clemson the year before, and Clemson pulled a miracle out of their ass, honestly, to win that game.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, and I mean, it just felt like, even the whole, for the past 2 years, this has been the story that Justin Fields was right behind Trevor Lawrence. So the fact that, I have him dropping to 15, which I don't think he's going to actually drop to 15, but that's just the way it's set up right now, is absolutely insane that he's going to be, that they'll take 3 quarterbacks before the guy who has been the consensus like number 2.
In my opinion, at this point, I'm still comfortable picking Justin Fields over Mac Jones.
I would agree with you, but I mean, the only reason why I put Mac Jones at number 3 is just because there's a lot of talk that San Francisco really likes Mac Jones over Justin Fields because Mac Jones fits their system better.
Yeah, which is true, but anything can happen, like you said, like we both said. But
I mean, think about it. Aaron Rodgers dropped 20 in his draft. I mean, Lamar Jackson was taken number 32. It's not, again, bad decisions are made too. Mitchell Trubisky was taken number 2 overall. Jamarcus Russell was the number 1 pick.
Yeah, let's go that far back.
Yeah. So like to me, like Justin, do I think it's possible? I don't really think it's possible that Justin Fields drops this far, but could it happen? Absolutely, it could happen where he falls to New England, and New England would take that in a heartbeat. They would love Justin Fields. Have him sit behind Cam Newton 1 year, learn from Cam Newton because they're pretty much built alike. They're the same type of quarterback, kind of. I mean, Cam Newton's a little bigger, but Justin Fields would be a way for the dynasty of New England to continue.
Pick number 16, the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock.
Yeah, so Arizona, they need help in their secondary, in my opinion. So, obviously Patrick Peterson's getting older, and I'm not even one. Yeah, and they're set. They're pretty good on offense. You got Kyler Murray, you got
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, you got DeAndre Hopkins.
The man.
I don't really think they need a whole. Their main concerns are fixing up their defense. So with that being said, with the 16th pick in the Josh Kirby on Sports podcast NFL mock draft, the Arizona Cardinals select J.C. Horn, cornerback, South Carolina.
I like the move. J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Assuming off those interceptions, 3 touchdowns, or 3 defensive touchdowns, rather.
I don't get the touchdown stat. How do you get 3 touchdowns, but you only had the intercepted the ball twice?
Probably a fumble. Who knows? But
maybe. Who knows?
116 yards, 24 targets, 8 receptions, 239 in coverage. Those are just his stats. But yes, like you said, Carlos, I like the move. Not a lot to work on for the offense for Arizona. So, yeah. The saying, defense wins championships, and that's what I think they're trying to do here. Because their offense is great with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and what will make your team even better? A good defense and a good line to protect Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Number 17, the Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock. here on the Kirby on Sports podcast mock draft.
Yeah, so, I mean, not really a whole lot to say. I mean, Las Vegas has, obviously they were Oakland. The John Gruden experiment is not necessarily working, in my opinion. I feel like they haven't drafted the right players. So hopefully this one will change it and get them on track. So with that being said, with the 17th pick, the Las Vegas Raiders, it's still so weird to say, pick Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker out of Notre Dame.
All right, the linebacker out of Notre Dame, not 47 tackles in 2020, 9 assisted tackles, only 10 missed tackles. 2019, 57 tackles, 11 assisted tackles. Yeah, I think he's a pretty good fit. I mean, the stats show that he can find the player with the football and take him down. So we'll just have to see how this plays out, but I don't really have much else to say on this matter.
Yeah, honestly, I don't either. I just kind of picked the guy, to be completely honest.
Yeah. So pick number 18, the Miami Dolphins are on the clock.
So this is Miami's second pick in the first round, which is a huge, again, setting up for the future. Obviously, with their first pick, they picked Jamar Chase. Now, they could go with plenty of options, but personally, I think they're going to go with this option. I don't necessarily agree with normally doing this. I would pick a generational talent in the first round at this position. With that being said, I think this player does a pretty good job. Is going to be a force to be reckoned with. But do I think he's a generational talent? No, I think he's just going to be a solid running back that you can't really pass up on him. And I just revealed pretty much who he is right there. So with the 18th pick, the Miami Dolphins will select Naji Harris, running back, Alabama. So they'll have a Crimson Tide backfield, basically.
Naji Harris, just under 1,500 yards rushing, 26 touchdowns, 43 receptions, 53 targets. So Naji Harris, once again, he played incredibly well in the national championship game. And, an Alabama backfield, that would be something. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins pick Naji Harris. Like you said, Carlos, about the generational talent, I think it's too early to say for somebody like Naji Harris.
I'm not saying Naji Harris is a generational talent. I'm saying normally I wouldn't pick a running back in the first round normally, unless it's like, an Ezekiel Elliott or who obviously hasn't played very well lately, but like in his first few years, he was a beast, or like a Saquon Barkley. Those are the type of guys that, you draft in the first round. A Naji Harris, you can probably wait till the second round, but I feel like in the position Miami's in, I feel like taking Naji Harris here is a safe bet.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to the pick. I'm not sure who else they could get, but that's just going to help the Dolphins.
It'll give Tua more weapons, and it'll give him somebody that he's used that he's comfortable with, because obviously he played with Naji Harris his last season at Alabama.
Absolutely. Pick number 19, the nameless team, the Washington football team, is on the clock.
Did you see the list of possible names that they released?
I briefly glanced over it.
It's an interesting team. The Warriors were on there.
Yeah, I don't know. I sort of like the Washington football team.
I kind of like the Washington football team also. I think you guys should keep that name.
The Washington football team or the Washington football club?
Not football club. That's too soccery.
Yeah. I knew you'd disagree as soon as I said that.
That's too soccer like. But
no, the Washington Real Madrid. That's a good name.
That's awful. Might as well just call yourselves Washington United. You already have DC United.
Hey, that's a good name too, Washington United.
You have DC United, so You guys
That's
can't
true.
take that.
All right. Washington football team's on the clock, Mr. Martinez.
So you disagree with this pick wholeheartedly, and that's because you're traumatized from from the last experiment that we did with this. But I believe that at this point in the draft, you have to take this guy. You have to take him. Obviously, Washington's biggest issue right now is the quarterback position. So with the 19th pick, the Washington football team will select Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State.
No, we need
Kirby
to.
hates this pick.
Washington needs to focus on defense. They just picked up Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Like we had this conversation. I don't understand why you're like they need to focus on defense when their defense was stout or is pretty good already.
No. Their defensive line. Their
whole defense played fantastic. Your defensive line is the backbone. Everybody else's play elevated because you guys had so much pressure. I feel like you guys are solid on defense. I think you guys need to start thinking of the future because right now all you have is Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. You guys need to set up for the future. Trey Lance is not Dwayne Haskins.
Well, okay, so let me preface here. The defense did play great. That's right. But there are futures that are uncertain in the names of Ryan Kerrigan, John Bostic. We're not sure how often he will play. And that's just limiting our depth at linebacker. In our secondary, I've seen flaws in Washington's secondary that I feel like need to be addressed. And I feel like they will have an opportunity to handle that in the draft as well. Excuse me. But they need to focus on linebacker first and foremost, because if Ryan Kerrigan leaves, that's a huge blow to the Washington football team. The Washington football team has Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have Kyle Allen. They have Taylor Heineke.
None of which are going to win you a Super Bowl.
We don't need a Super Bowl right away. We don't need.
Okay, but what I'm saying, okay, but you got to look at it this way too, Kirby. Coming into this draft, this is the best quarterback class you're going to have for a while. Next year's quarterback class isn't going to be that great. The year after that, who knows? Like there's no Trevor Lawrence waiting out there for you guys. Trey Lance is honestly your best bet here. He can sit behind Ryan Fitzpatrick for a year, same as Tua did. Learn from a good pro, like a guy who's been there, who's done that, who's seen everything. Obviously Ryan Fitzpatrick's never won a Super Bowl, but he's a pro's pro. He's been in multiple organizations. He's seen everything. To me, and Trey Lance, like I said, he's not Dwayne Haskins. He comes from a better. Just listen to the profile they did on him on ESPN Daily. You'll fall in love with the kid. Like this is a guy who didn't throw an interception, a couple seasons ago. He only has one full season as a starter, and last year North Dakota State only played one game. But in that last full season, he didn't throw a pick all season long. Do you know how hard that is? That's impossible to do, to not throw a pick all season long. So to me, I don't know why you're so afraid of these, drafting a quarterback and developing them. That's the way you do it. That's how the NFL works today. Because
Washington doesn't need to when you have somebody like Kyle Allen, who unfortunately had a gruesome injury.
Kyle, you're going to put your eggs in the Kyle Allen basket? You think Kyle Allen's going to bring a Super Bowl to your city one day?
Yeah, well,
you think Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to take you to the promised land? This is how mediocre Washington has been so far, that you guys aren't aiming for a Super Bowl. Well, you guys have a great foundation built. You guys, albeit it was a 7-9 season last year, right? But we saw the change that Alex Smith had when he finally started playing. You guys beat Pittsburgh when they were undefeated, right? And your defense plays stout. You have a great leader in Chase Young. But offensively, what do you have? You guys still don't have a running back. Your quarterbacks are mediocre at best. I mean, it's not as if Ryan Fitzpatrick has his magical moments here and there, but ultimately, what does he ever accomplish? Wide receivers, you guys have great wide receivers. I will give you that. You have a great tight end. Like, what like I don't understand why you're so focused on the defense when offensively that's what's gonna that's where the league is going anyways.
Well, yeah, I'm saying this. If Washington drafts a quarterback, I will feel a little bit better that the quarterback falls to 19 instead of Washington trading up, because they 100% should not do that. But Washington has 3 quarterbacks, average quarterbacks. Kyle Allen showed a lot of potential last season.
No, he did not. He did not show any potential. He was trash. Kyle Allen's always been trash.
I mean, I disagree. I feel like that Kyle Allen played very good football.
I don't agree with that statement whatsoever.
Well, he's a mobile quarterback, and
is he though? I
mean, look at the highlights against Dallas.
I'm sorry. How did he against Dallas? Oh yeah, against our horrible defense. Congratulations, you beat Dallas, the worst team ever right now.
I'm just saying, I feel like Washington can deal with a bridge with Ryan Fitzpatrick teaching Taylor Heineke.
Oh, now you want to put your eggs in the Taylor Heineke basket.
I'm not saying that.
Really?
Oh,
my Kirby, move on. Oh, my God. This is why Washington fans are insufferable. Hey, you guys really settle for mediocrity.
I don't want to
settle for mediocrity here.
I don't want to draft a quarterback, and that's why, because I feel like
so what's your plan? So what do you think the plan is then? You're gonna have to draft a quarterback. You're not gonna get a free agent quarterback, like a big name free agent quarterback, to come to Washington.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see, because the way I see it now, it is not reasonable to draft another quarterback in the first round.
How is it not reasonable? You have Ron. This will be a Ron Rivera guy. The thing was, Dwayne Haskins was not a Ron Rivera guy.
I'm not comparing this to Dwayne Haskins.
That's obviously what's scaring you off of this, because you threw that huge fit about Dwayne Haskins when all this happened. That's obviously what's scaring you about Trey Lance.
No, because I've seen Trey Lance. It seems like he has a pretty good style of gameplay. I just don't think Washington needs to draft a quarterback. If a quarterback comes later on in the draft for cheaper, yeah, take him. But
for cheaper, you're getting Trey Lance isn't going to be expensive at 19.
I'm just saying, because Washington needs defense. They need to beef up the defense, because there are some guys' futures that aren't certain. And we need to start with that. Then the Washington football team needs to beef up their O-line. Then we need to talk quarterback.
I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong, but whatever. Moving on. You want to settle for mediocrity? It's fine. You and every Washington fan I know, I guess.
I mean, that's just what I'm thinking. Who knows? Who knows who they decide to pick? But I mean, Washington nonetheless has the start of a strong foundation. They fixed the front office essentially. I mean, I don't know why Dan Snyder bought out the entire team so he owns all of it. Still mind-boggling to me, but I mean, Ron Rivera is making good moves. Marty Herney, Martin Mayhew is in the front office. So this is a start to something bigger, but Washington just can't screw it up in this draft, because it would just set them back. I'm not saying they will screw it up, but I'm just saying if they did something stupid in this draft.
Well, drafting Trey Lance wouldn't be stupid. Just letting you know.
But. All right. Well, pick number 20. The Chicago Bears are on the clock.
I mean, obviously Chicago, coming off the Mitchell Trubisky era. Jesus, that was such a bad pick. So right now they got the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, and Nick Foles. I think they still have Nick Foles, right?
Yeah, I was hoping Andy Dalton would stay in Dallas.
I mean, who cares? He wasn't going to start over Dak Prescott, but, Anyways, so I think Chicago, obviously their biggest need is a quarterback, but at this point in the draft, there won't really be any quarterbacks unless they want to take a risk and draft like a quarterback who's not, they draft a Kellen Mond later on, who knows. But at this pick, I think they're going to take a tackle. So with the 20th pick in the Kirby on Sports podcast mock draft, Chicago selects Tevan Jenkins, offensive tackle, Oklahoma State.
Evan Jenkins.
Tevin?
I think it's Tevin.
Whatever.
Well, I have to say the Bears were dumb once in the draft. Who's not to say the Bears are going to be dumb again? I saw a mock draft earlier that had Mac Jones falling all the way to pick 20, and the Bears picking him up.
I mean, it's possible.
What if the Bears are dumb enough to draft up and get another quarterback?
I mean,
trade up. Excuse me.
I mean, with the four quarterbacks that, right? Four. Yeah, it'd be the 4 or 5 quarterbacks that are projected to go in the first round. I mean, all of them are better than what Mitchell Trubisky was. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky only shot up because of he had the intangibles, because he was, built like his build or whatnot. But then ultimately, what did he do? He only had one good one season as a starter at North Carolina. It was more of the potential of what Mitchell Trubisky could become. And obviously he didn't become that. And they missed out on Deshaun Watson, who of course is going through his legal troubles right now, or Patrick Mahomes, who I believe Patrick Mahomes is only great because he had time to develop himself and was around, competent people. I don't know if he would be Patrick Mahomes would be Patrick Mahomes if he went to Chicago. So with that being said, I mean, them trading up is not out of the question, but who would they trade up with? What do they have to trade up? They don't necessarily have everything to trade up.
I feel like they would just do something stupid.
It's possible.
Yeah, because they've done it before. So
yep.
That's my mindset on pick number 20. Went through picks 10 through 20. When we return, we will wrap things up with the rest of the mock draft. Stay tuned. Is it finally time to upgrade your home's interior? How about with an authentic farm table made locally from recycled barnwood? Shenandoah Primitives, based right here in Winchester, Virginia, makes farm tables, benches, tables, coffee tables, and a long list of other items for your home decorating needs. At Shenandoah Primitives, function and style are combined for great furniture that will last generations. If you're interested in combining the industrial look of metal with wood, or considering something incredibly unique with a live edge, Shenandoah Primitives turns those ideas into reality. Thinking about a mirror, wine rack, or other accent piece for your home, Shenandoah Primitives can assist with that as well. As a local small business, Shenandoah Primitives is happy to work with each client for a custom design or schedule an appointment to come out and view current inventory. Local, high-quality, handmade items can be found at Shenandoah Primitives. Find us on Facebook and Instagram, or visit us at www.shenandoahprimitives.com. Once again, that's www.shenandoahprimitives.com. Wrapping things up here on the Kirby on Sports podcast mock draft, Carlos Martinez is joining us once again. Pick number 21. The Indianapolis Colts are on the clock.
Yeah, so at this point, we're going to kind of just go through them because it's starting to get a little late.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Do what we can,
Yeah, so with the 21st pick, the Indianapolis Colts select Joseph Osai. I don't know how to say his last name. The edge rusher out of Texas.
Joseph Osai. That's what I'm going to say. A 79.9 rated on PFF.com. I mean, the Colts did a pretty decent job. They made it to the playoffs. I mean, they have Phillip Rivers, no longer with Phillip Rivers since Phillip Rivers retired. But I mean, it just need plug and play players, I think, just to get back and make it farther in the playoffs, in my opinion.
I mean, the Colts are built to, our well-built team. They basically just needed a quarterback, to plug in after Phillip Rivers retired.
Yeah.
And obviously they went on and got Carson Wentz. Obviously Carson Wentz and head coach Frank Reich have a previous relationship because they were together when they won the Super Bowl. Well, obviously Nick Foles won the Super Bowl, but Carson Wentz got the most of the way there. So obviously this is a rehabilitation project for Carson Wentz to try and redefine himself as a quarterback, because obviously the way things ended in Philly, it didn't really end the best. So for Indianapolis, really, I mean, they have the weapons, they have the tools, their offensive line is great. Really, they need a wide receiver too, but I just don't think that they take a wide receiver with this pick.
Absolutely. I agree with that. So pick 22, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock.
So with the 22nd pick, the Tennessee Titans are going to take Greg Newsome the second, the cornerback out of Northwestern. I think they lost. Didn't they have Malcolm Butler? Didn't they lose Malcolm Butler to free agency?
They did. I can't recall off the top of my head where he is now, but they lost Malcolm Butler. So
I don't remember either. But basically, Tennessee needs a lot of help on defense. Their defense was pretty atrocious last season.
And Greg Newsome, I think, is a good pick. To help their defense out even more. I mean, they were projected to beat Baltimore in the wild card game, but Baltimore comes out and beats them. And I think that attributed to Tennessee's defense and how poorly they played.
Yeah, well, obviously, they lost a lot from the year prior to last season. They lost a lot on their defense. And it showed this year. I mean, they still played pretty well. But right now they're basically just retooling the defense, and I think Tennessee will be fine.
Pick number 23, the New York Jets are on the clock.
Yeah, so obviously this is also the Jets' second pick in the first round. So both the Dolphins and the Jets both have 2 picks in the first round. The Jets in this. So obviously they got their quarterback in the first with the first pick, or their second overall pick. They need a guard, an edge rusher, or a cornerback at this point. But at this point, I mean, there's not really much left, so it's pretty much taking the best player they can possibly get, and I believe that it's this player. So with the 23rd pick, the New York Jets will select Caleb Farley, the cornerback from Virginia Tech.
Farley, I've seen Farley play. He's done well from what I've seen over the times I've watched Virginia Tech play. The only concern at 23 is the fact that he has an injury that he's coming off of. And I feel like that's going to affect Farley's position. And I don't want to really say it's a stretch to take him 23, but I wouldn't be surprised if he fell even farther than that due to his injury.
Yeah, there's a possibility he falls out of the first round. Honestly, him coming out and saying that he got back surgery is a big deal, because this isn't his only back injury and such. Honestly, I originally, in my earlier versions of the mock draft, I had Dallas taking him because I thought he was the best cornerback in the draft, but the injuries are very concerning. He did opt out of the 2020 season, so that's another thing that I guess is kind of scaring teams, is that he didn't even play football last season, and yet he still is getting, he still got hurt. But I believe that, him going to New York, if New York takes him at this pick, I feel like it's the most bang for their buck at that point.
Pick number 24, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock.
So with the 24th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to take Landon Dickerson, the center from Alabama. Obviously, the big thing here is that their starting center, one of the Pouncey twins, I
Yeah.
don't remember which Pouncey twin it is. He retired, so they need a guy who I think Landon Dickerson really fits in Pittsburgh. He will really take to Pittsburgh very well. Like he just screams a Steeler to me. So I think this would be the smartest pick because he's very good. Obviously, he's coming off of an ACL injury, but he was doing cartwheels behind Mac Jones during Mac Jones's pro day. So he looks like he can move fine. He's going to be okay. And he's a great center. He's a good leader. He seems like the team really takes to him and loves him. I think this is the solid right pick for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to add to that besides the fact that Pouncey retired after a long, rewarding career, and they need a center that they can have for a really long time. So hopefully Landon Dickerson gives the Pittsburgh Steelers that opportunity to have another long-time center. So pick 25, the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock.
So this is also Jacksonville's second pick in the first round. Wow. Okay. There are multiple teams that have 2 picks in the first round. And with that being said, I think Jacksonville will take. So with the 25th pick, Jacksonville Jaguars will select Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle out of Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama defensive tackle. What can go wrong?
I think, you obviously addressed the quarterback with the first pick. They still need a tight end, a tackle, and a safety, but there's not really.
You can find that in later rounds, though.
Yeah, you can. There'll be somebody in round 2 at this point. I think that this is just going to bolster up their defensive line and really help them, just help build the team a lot better.
Pick number 26, the Cleveland Browns are on the clock.
This is so crazy to think that Cleveland is picking 26.
I know. They did so well last season, and I think they're just building to continue having success.
Well, it feels like they finally have the right people in charge, but this is the latest Cleveland has picked since the 90s, I think it was.
The fans no longer have to have paper bags on their heads.
Yeah, but given the way you think of Washington, it's only a matter of time before you guys are. Anyways, so Cleveland, congratulations. You guys are picking at number 26. You guys are well on your way. You guys are getting Odell Beckham back, but you guys need some help defensively, and you guys are going to get that. So with the 26th pick, the Cleveland Browns will select Jamin Davis, linebacker out of Kentucky.
Jamin Davis, 75 tackles in 2020, 31 assisted tackles, 24 pass rushes. The defense wins championships, and like you said, the Browns did struggle. So I really feel like this is a good pick for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I do too. I think if Jacksonville doesn't take Christian Barmore at 25, then at 26, Cleveland will take him to help, because honestly, when you really think about it, who do they really have on the defensive line aside from Myles Garrett? It's Myles Garrett, and that's about it. So if they can get Barmore, then that'll be great. But if not, then Jamin Davis is a pretty solid pick.
Pick 27, the Baltimore Ravens are on the clock.
So obviously Dan couldn't be here for this, and I think he would have really enjoyed this pick.
Yeah, Dan could not make it. I'm not sure if I stated at the beginning of this show, but Dan, unfortunately, some stuff came up and he was not able to make it tonight. But we wish Dan all the best.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll be on for the live show next Thursday. But with that being said, obviously the big thing with Baltimore, they need a wide receiver. They desperately need a good wide receiver. They need to get Lamar Jackson some help. The wide receivers they have currently are not enough. So with that being said, with the 27th pick, the Baltimore Ravens will select Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver out of Minnesota.
I really like this move. And it's just another weapon to add for Lamar Jackson. You know, people are bashing Lamar Jackson and saying, oh, he's not a traditional style quarterback and he just runs all over the place. But I feel like people are bashing him for the wrong reasons. Lamar Jackson just has a unique perspective on how to play quarterback. And I feel like he can throw the ball and give him good receivers that will let him throw the ball and he will be successful at doing it. And I feel like that's what Baltimore's trying to accomplish if they pick a wide receiver here.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they're still looking for, Hollywood Brown is not really like a starting wide receiver. He's probably a great number 2. They try to sign some, they even tried getting Juju Smith-Schuster out of Pittsburgh because obviously he was a free agent and he only signed a 1-year deal with Pittsburgh. They tried to get him. They got Sammy Watkins. I believe they signed Sammy Watkins, so there's some help, but he's not a starting wide receiver either. I believe Rashad Bateman has the potential to be a starting wide receiver. He's definitely got the size. He had a kind of a down year this year, but the year before he had 11 touchdowns, and Minnesota was in the top 4, I believe. I mean, they beat Penn State in that one huge game, and then obviously they didn't really do too well at the end, but I mean, he played pretty well. So yeah, I think that this is a good move. It'll give Lamar Jackson another weapon to work with.
Pick number 28, the New Orleans Saints are on the clock.
So the New Orleans Saints, we're in the post-Drew Brees era right now. The question really is for them is who's going to be their starting quarterback? Is it going to be Taysom Hill? Is it going to be Jameis Winston? Taysom Hill is apparently only training to be a quarterback, but that's not about the draft. Really, New Orleans, they need a wide receiver, a linebacker, or a cornerback. I don't understand why they would need a cornerback, honestly. I think their defense is pretty solid, but I feel like they could improve. I mean, obviously, I'm looking at defense. I don't think there's really a wide receiver to take at this point with Rashad Bateman coming off. I don't think anybody, I think if you draft another – no, there's one more, but I don't think New Orleans is going to take him. But I think pretty much any other wide receiver is kind of a stretch, here. I mean, we're pretty much like early second round, picks at this point. So with the 28th pick in the Josh Kirby on Sports mock draft, the New Orleans Saints will take Zaven Collins, the linebacker out of Tulsa.
I like the move. I don't think it's a bad move. It can improve the defense 100%. With the Saints, I sort of want to touch briefly on the rest of the draft for the Saints. Do you think it's reasonable? Because I feel like the Saints would do this, draft a young quarterback to sit behind Winston, who's been in the league. I'm not saying Winston was good. The 30 for 30, I do remember that. But I mean, do you think, Carlos, because I feel like there's a chance that New Orleans picks up a quarterback for the long-term future?
I don't know if they're necessarily going to pick if they pick a quarterback in this draft, it's going to be in the later parts of the draft, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I meant, obviously.
Maybe in the second round, maybe in the third round. It's not going to be necessarily a quarterback that they're going to be like, this is our future. It might be just for depth purposes. And maybe they become, maybe it's a Dak Prescott situation where, somehow they get a chance to play. It could be Kellen Mond. It could be something like that. But I think New Orleans is happy with, Jameis and Taysom. I think that they're pretty satisfied with either of those guys being their starters. I mean, Jameis obviously got LASIK, so now he can actually see. And apparently he's been working, this offseason. And Drew Brees pretty much anointed him, said that this was his team now. To Jameis. Now, obviously, Taysom Hill wants to be the quarterback, and apparently, like I said, he's solely training as a quarterback this offseason. So I think that they're going to go with Zaven Collins here. But I mean, I wouldn't put it out of the question of them drafting a quarterback. at some point in the draft.
Absolutely. So 4 more left. Pick number 29, the Green Bay Packers are on the clock.
The Green Bay Mackers? Was that what you were about to say?
The Green Bay Packers. I stuttered there. I'm not sure why.
Anyways. Yeah, so obviously Green Bay coming off of a good season, obviously there was a lot of talk going into last season because last year's draft, they drafted Jordan Love. So basically they drafted Aaron Rodgers' replacement before Aaron Rodgers was done. And Aaron Rodgers goes out and has an MVP year. They struggled, against Tampa Bay in the championship game. It heartbreaking because, you want Aaron Rodgers, him. I really root for the guy, especially ever since he started coming on Pat McAfee's show. Those were great interviews.
Oh, dude, Aaron Rodgers on Jeopardy.
Oh my God.
That was incredible.
Fantastic. He should be the host.
And the guy trashed him like something on the Daily Double or something.
No. It was about whose decision was it to kick the field goal.
Yeah, I know. And that was the Daily Double. He wagered $0 and Aaron Rodgers took it like a champ.
Yeah.
I hope he gets permanent replacement because that was great.
Yeah, but the issue is of course football season and all that stuff. But
I heard him say he can make it work around football.
He could probably make it work. I believe it. They would just have to bank a bunch of episodes in the off season.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, with that being said, I believe Green Bay is finally going to make a move that's going to help Aaron Rodgers because he's not done yet. So with that being said, with the 29th pick, the Green Bay Packers will select Terrence Marshall Jr., the wide receiver out of LSU.
If you add a good weapon for Aaron Rodgers, he will use that weapon and he will destroy you. Terrence Marshall Jr., 48 receptions, 67 targets, 731 yards in the 2020 season with 10 touchdowns. Have Aaron Rodgers coach you up, and I'm sure you will do well with Green Bay.
Yeah, the issue with Green Bay is obviously, they have Devonta Adams. Their tight end is pretty good. I can't remember his name. They got Aaron Jones back. But they need another weapon on the outside. They don't really have a true number 2 for Aaron Rodgers to throw to, and I think Terrence Marshall Jr. could be that guy.
Absolutely. Pick number 30, the Buffalo Bills are on the clock. The Buffalo Bills are so close to reaching the ultimate goal of a Super Bowl. They just got to improve a little bit more. I think the Bills are on the cusp of making it to the Super Bowl. Time will tell, obviously. So I'm excited to hear who you have the Bills drafting at pick 30.
Yeah, they're definitely right there. Obviously their biggest hurdle is going to be Kansas City. Obviously, and then even now they their division is getting tougher and tougher, but. Buffalo is definitely built for success for the foreseeable future. So, for me, I feel like this guy's going to definitely help. They need an edge rusher. So, with that being said, I'm with the 30th pick in the Kirby on Sports mock draft. Buffalo will select Jason Owe, edge rusher out of Penn State.
Yeah, I agree. I think an edge rusher would be smart for Buffalo to pick up to intimidate offenses that they're facing up against and create pressure for force 3 and outs and get the offense the ball more. But, not really much to say on this one. Jason Owe had 15 hurries, 5 hits. Pro Football Focus has him in 85.3 ranking. So I think it would do good if they were to pick him.
Yeah, it's just another weapon to work with on defense.
The Super Bowl runner-ups the AFC champions. Pick 31. The Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock.
So obviously with Kansas City, they need a lot of help on the line. Obviously, that was the biggest issue in the Super Bowl.
They got rid of those 2 linemen that did nothing to protect him.
They got rid of them, and then they got rid of their 2 starting tackles also because one got an Achilles injury. He's been in the league for 10 years or something like that. And I can't remember what happened to the other guy. But I mean, they're getting the doctor from Canada back.
Duvernay Tardif.
That guy, yes.
Mad respect for what he's been doing during this pandemic.
100%. But in this case, obviously Kansas City needs to get a left tackle to help protect Patrick Mahomes, because what happened to him in the Super Bowl should be, it was a sin. I mean, they need to say like 3 Hail Marys for that, because my Lord, they let their boy down in the Super Bowl. So with that being said, with the 31st pick, the Kansas City Chiefs will select Samuel Cosmi, the offensive tackle out of Texas.
2 sacks, 1 hit, 5 hurries.
You only allowed 2 sacks.
Only allowed 2 sacks.
You only allowed 2 sacks. You only allowed 1 hit, so that means the quarterback got the ball off and still got hit. And
I should have enunciated that beforehand.
Yeah. It's okay.
A 90.8 Pro Football Focused overall. So, yeah, you got to protect the line. After seeing that Super Bowl, it was evident that you have to protect your prized possession that you paid so much money to extend in Patrick Mahomes.
$500 million. Your $500 million investment in Patrick Mahomes. You have to protect him.
That's all I have to say about it. Just protect the quarterback, and you should be fine.
Yep.
Last but not least, before we head to round number 2,
which we won't.
I got you there. This is only round 1 mock draft. I was teasing Carlos there just to surprise him there. But the Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I want to preface this a little. With the Super Bowl champion, Carlos, that almost has their entire roster back for this upcoming.
No, they have all their starters back. All 22 starters in the Super Bowl are back.
They have all 22 starters back. So, what does a team like this do in terms of the draft?
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if they trade out of the spot.
Yeah, I could see that, because what do they possibly need? If another team makes them a good offer, they can stack back and just pick players at certain positions. Because, I mean, with a team who wins the Super Bowl and gets all of their starters back, what could you possibly need this pick for?
I mean, it says their team needs are a quarterback, a safety.
A quarterback, please.
Well, I mean, Tom Brady's got, 2-3 years left.
Oh, Tom Brady's invincible at this point.
Yeah, okay. Tom's got, I give him like maybe 2 more seasons, and then he's going to be like, all right, I think I'm good. Not that he can't keep playing. I think Tom could play as long as he wants, but I think at some point Tom is just going to be like, all right, I think it's time to hang it up. So that's why they have quarterback on there, because they're like, yeah, they need to start setting up for the future, But I mean, really, you brought Tom Brady in because you want to win now. You're not trying to think about running a dynasty later.
Yeah, that's true.
So with that being said, I mean, there's not a whole lot you could do here. So I just went with this guy. So at the 32nd pick and the final pick of the Kirby on Sports mock draft, our version of Mr. Irrelevant, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select. Oh, Jesus, I'm going to butcher. Elijah Vera Tucker.
Yes.
Offensive guard, USC.
Well, I mean, what's a better pick than an offensive guard to protect Tom Brady? Because you can never go wrong with beefing up the, adding more additions to the depth chart on the O-line to protect Tom Brady.
Yep.
I mean,
Not
plain
much
and
to
simple,
do.
if they keep this 32nd pick. But that's up for debate.
Yeah, because I mean, some team could possibly want to trade back into the first round, and kind of like what Baltimore did, where they traded back into 32 to take Lamar Jackson. It's possible.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, this is it. This is our mock draft. We will have a graphic up on the Kirby on Sports podcast Instagram page with all these picks as soon as I get it done. So keep your eye out for that, so you guys can see what our mock draft is. And yeah.
All right. We're not done yet. We are on the pff.com website, and they have this cool tool called the mock draft simulator where you can go in and basically draft who you want on which team, and they grade you. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in Elijah Vera Tucker, and we're going to get this draft grade. And full results. Let's see here. So from everybody Carlos has picked, we're going to run through this really quickly. A+ for the top three: Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones. Kyle Pitts, A. P9 Sewell, an A-. Jamar Chase, a B-. Jalen Waddle, a B+. Rashaan Slater, an F.
Jeez, ouch.
Micah Parsons, a C+. Patrick Surtain, a B-. Aziz Olajari, a C-. A+ for Devontae Smith. Christian Darrisaw, an A. Kwity Paye, A-. Justin Fields, A+. J.C. Horn, A. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, B-. Naji Harris, B+. Trey Lance, an A+. So
damn right, it's a fucking A+.
Tevin Jenkins, a B+. Most of these look good. You have Landon Dickerson, the center, who has a D.
That's a D? What?
I don't know. But look at that overall. It gives you the whole overall of the team.
Well, the overalls are going to match, basically, because we only did one round. We didn't do two rounds.
Yeah.
Or 7 rounds. So.
But, I mean, it looks pretty good, Carlos. I think you drafted. I wish they'd show you like an actual average, but once again, that's profootballfocus.com.
I mean, it seems like my average is an A.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like.
Seems like it. I see a lot of A's, so it might be like an A- B+ average.
We don't really have the time to do it all, but I mean, that's essentially what it turned out to be. So, I mean, we had a pretty good joint mock draft here. So that about does it, unless there's any last draft thoughts from you, Carlos.
I swear, if Justin Fields falls to 15, I'm going to be pissed off because I don't want that to happen. I'm rooting for Justin Fields. I think he's getting the short end of the stick in these drafts, mock drafts.
Yeah, I could agree with that too. But
although, imagine if he falls onto Washington's lap, you guys would take him in a heartbeat, and you would be happy with it.
Oh no!
You would love Justin Fields.
The last time we drafted somebody from Ohio State in the first
was a
round
1-year starter who had no business being in the NFL draft that year, whereas Justin Fields would have beaten Dwayne Haskins out anyways. Justin Fields is a solid quarterback.
That's a discussion for another day. I'm just going to leave it at that. But once again, that's Carlos. I'm Josh. This was the Kirby on Sports podcast mock draft. We could be entirely wrong, and that's the good thing about mock drafts.
My picks are going to be like, I'll be lucky if I get 4 of them right. That's not true.
Because this is a mock draft. This is just our opinion, and it could be completely wrong. But we'll have a copy of the mock draft and have it out at the live stream event next week, when the draft rolls out, and we'll compare. And that's what's so fun about drafting in the mock draft.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with We'll see what happens during the live show. You'll get our instant reactions to every pick. We'll be watching it. It's basically a watch along, so you guys can watch the draft along with us, and you can get our insights and such. Of course, we're just a bunch of stooges out here in the middle of nowhere. But we'll give our thoughts.
Absolutely. Carlos, once again, it was great to have you on chopping up here on the Kirby on Sports podcast. We appreciate you, brother. Find Carlos on Instagram at Chief Graphics, and he can take care of you all your graphic design needs. And until the next time you hear us, we will be coming to you live from Facebook at the Kirby on Sports podcast for a live stream of the NFL draft, and you will get our live reactions, as Carlos said. So, Carlos, once again, great to be with you. Our sponsors on the Kirby on Sports podcast: Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, and Chief Graphics. Big thanks to Dave Johnson and Productions by Quet as well. Make sure you check out our brand new website, www.kirbyonsports.com. If you have a question you want answered on the Kirby on Sports podcast, email us at the mailbag at kirbyonsports.com. Once again, that's the mailbag at kirbyonsports.com. You can check us out on all social media platforms as well. Until the next time you hear us, folks, always remember to create greatness. So long and peace out.